This is Masechet Pesachim Daf Kuf Tes Vav Amud Beis in the middle of the page, and we begin with the statement of Rava. Amar Rava Bala Matza Yatza, Bala Maror Lo Yatza. If a person swallows the matzah whole without chewing it, he still fulfills the mitzvah of matzah because he still ate the matzah. Bala Maror Lo Yatza. But if he does the same for the maror and swallows it without chewing it, then he does not fulfill the mitzvah. Bala matzah umaror yidei matzah yatza yidei maror lo yatza. Similarly, if you put them together and swallow them together, you fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, but not the mitzvah of maror. Karchan b'siv u'bala'an. If he wrapped it in the fibers of a plant, the matzah and or the maror, af yidei matzah nami lo yatza, even the mitzvah of matzah was not fulfilled. And the reason is that maror requires that we experience the bitter taste of the maror. And therefore, if it's swallowed like a pill, you don't experience the taste of the maror. The matzah is not as important to taste it, but it has to be eaten. So as long as you eat it, you fulfill the mitzvah. However, if it's wrapped in these fibers, so then it doesn't even touch the sides of your throat. It's not even called eating, because eating is defined halachically as the process as it goes down your throat. And if it's separated from your throat because it's wrapped up within something which itself is not a food, is not edible, that is not considered to have eaten the matzah. Amar Rav Shimi bar Ashi, matzah lefnei kol echad ve'echad. Rav Shimi says that everyone should have their own matzah. Maror lefnei kol echad ve'echad. Everyone should have their own maror. V'charoses lefnei kol echad ve'echad. And everyone should have their own charoses. Ve'ein okrin es hashulchan ela lefnei she'omer haggadah. And the akira shulchan, the removing of the table, or what we do with the table, the seder plate, is done only before the one who leads the haggadah. Presumably the logic here is that the matzah, the maror, and the charoses is all a mitzvah that each person has to fulfill, and therefore it makes sense for them each to have their own matzah, maror, and charoses. Whereas the akiras hashulchan is not really an individual mitzvah, it's an experience at the seder, so it suffices to have one for the entire table. Rav Huna amar kulu nami lifnei misha omer haggadah. Rav Huna says that all of these items, the matzah, the maror, and the charoses, are also only kept by the one who leads the seder, and everyone can share from his plate. V'hilchusa Rav Huna, and halacha follows Rav Huna. Presumably the reason is because we paskin that since the seder is an experience which is shared together by the whole entire table, the conversation, one asks the question, the other gives the answer, having one central matzah, maror, and charoses represents the connection between all the people at the seder table. Lama okrin es hashulchan. Why do we remove the table? Amid ve Rabbi Yanai k'dei she'akiru tinokos v'yishalu. So the kids should recognize something strange going on, and they will begin to ask questions. Abaye havi Yosef kamei de Rabba. Abaye was sitting at the seder by Rabba. Rabba actually adopted Abaye, who became orphaned at a young age, and Rabba raised Abaye and was his teacher. So Abaye chaza de kamad litaka mikamech. Abaye saw that they were taking away the table. Amar lu adayin lo kach kilna atu kama akri taka mikamon. We didn't even eat yet. Why are you taking the table away? Amar le Rabba. Rabba says, good question, Abaye. Patrasan milomar manashtana. You have patred us. You have exempted us from the requirements of manashtana. We don't need to read the text of the questions that children could ask, because you already asked your own question, and we're exempt now from manashtana. The story illustrates that the purpose of removing the table is to get the children to ask questions. Amar Shmuel lechem oni lechem she'onin alav dvarim harbe. Onin alav dvarim. That the Torah describes the matzah as lechem oni, which can be interpreted as if oneh, to answer, that we respond to many questions or ideas around the matzah. That the Haggadah is discussed over the matzah. Tanya nami hachi, lechem oni, lechem she'onin alav dvarim harbe. The Brisa says just about the same thing. The lechem oni teaches us that it's lechem she'onin alav dvarim harbe. Davar acher, another interpretation, lechem oni, oniksiv, is written chaser without a vav, to be interpreted as ani, as poor. Ma ani shedarko bepruso, just like an ani, a poor person is always eats pieces of bread, not a full piece, and saves a part for later. Afkan beprusa, so too the matzah is beprusa, and that's why we have the yachas. We break the matzah and save part for later. Davar acher, another interpretation of lechem ani. Ma darko shel ani hu mesik v'ishto ofet. Just like the practice of an ani is that when he bakes bread, what typically would happen is that the husband would make the fire in the oven and the wife would prepare the bread to bake. And they would do it at the same time, probably because they don't want to waste any fuel. So by the time that she's ready to bake the bread, the oven's hot and we don't have to leave it on for extra time, because we won't have enough wood to fuel the fire for that extra time. Afkanami hu mesik v'ishto ofes. So too, when you make the matzah, in the same way, you do it this way very quickly, so that, well, some say you do it very quickly so that so that it will bake very quickly and it won't become chametz. Others say that the reason why we do this in the matzah is that it means to say that you do it yourself, and that there's a hidor to make your own matzah.